we talk? More people interact with silverware than they do with paintings. Why don't we talk about which silverware? Dude, we just got... So every morning that I go into work, I eat yogurt. I eat my breakfast, my continental breakfast every morning at work. It's usually just a yogurt and some mini bites. And I'll eat the yogurt with, and I hate to say it, but I throw out a plastic spoon every single day. And we just got some new ones in the office, and the freaking belly of the spoon, dude, I scoop it, I get the yogurt, I put it in my mouth, and my freaking top lip can't get to the bottom of the spoon to get the last bit of yogurt, and my freaking... So then the outside of my mouth... They're like super like bowl shaped and like round? Yeah, so, dude, I had an experience with one of those at a hotel one time, and I literally put it on my Instagram story. I was like, this is like the worst spoon experience I've ever had. It's infuriating. It's like unreal. It's like, dude, you have one job. Right. As someone making a spoon, it's like, make a thing that fits in someone's mouth well, and that they can get the food into their mouth. Yeah. And like, it's not shaped with any consideration to like the mouth shape. It's crazy. It blows my mind.
So we should really, maybe we should do like a silverware rankings thing, or like, no one's even talking about this. You don't even go on Amazon and see like, what are the top, or I mean, I bought silverware for my apartment, and I think I got it in Target, and it's fine. I guess it's fine. I don't know. I when I'm at my apartment, I use the small forks. When I'm at home at my parents', I use the big forks.
But they're different silverware sets, no?
Different sets.
Yeah.
And my mom came and visited a couple weeks ago, and we were eating or something, and she went to grab the big fork, and she like served me a plate or something with the big fork. I said, no, I can't eat that. I got to have the small fork. And then I was home like a week later, and then I was going for the big fork. She's like, what are you doing? And I'm like, no, this one's better.
Yeah.
Like, there's like, there needs to be, we got to have this established, man. There's got to be.
I mean, like part of me like wonders if like, because there's so much different silverware that like part of me wonders like maybe it's just a taste thing, you know, like some people like that kind of like round, like really low bellied spoon, but I mean both you and I have just agreed that that's like a horrible experience. So like maybe people have very differently shaped mouths. But.
Also, I don't know. I'm not too. I'm sure in different, like you have soup spoons.
Yeah, I think that's what someone said was like, oh, it's a soup spoon.
So some of those, like you want to be able to, like, you're kind of like,
I guess,
sucking it out of there instead of just trying to get it all in one. You're not biting it,
right?
So then maybe you want it to kind of hang in there.
Yeah, that could be. Maybe we're just ignorant about the actual proper use of.
Right, we're not using it correctly. It's the bench. It's another.
Well,
bench
that's what they provided you at work.
Right.
You're not eating soup. You're eating yogurt.
Yeah,
they give you a yogurt
come on,
spoon.
Man.
Yeah. Yeah. No, but like you were saying, kind of like, you know, we should appreciate that stuff like as much as paintings. Like I mean, part of this I think is like an effortful thing that I've like over the past couple of years, just try to be like more grateful and attentive to like stuff. And so I maybe not to the same degree as like a painting that I really love, but I feel like I do appreciate that kind of stuff like a lot.
Yeah.
You know, I mean, it's similar to like architecture kind of stuff. Like I'm sure you feel like you walk into a building and like the presentation of like when you round this corner and it's a really satisfying like reveal of the space or whatever.
Yeah.
It's like, that's a really nice feeling that most people like wouldn't consciously appreciate.
But it's like, we've been alive for so long, and most people generally, like, there are ways of living that are consistent. Like everybody, there's a quote from, The Architecture of Happiness by Elaine de Botton that says, architecture is not the carpet under your feet. It is the light coming in through the window. Mm-hmm. And in thinking about how a house is arranged, or like everybody gets out of bed in the morning, right? Mm-hmm. There are certain, and I'm sure that there are like better ways to get out of bed, and there are worse ways in terms of the way that the light is coming in, the way that, you know, or maybe what is under your feet. Mm-hmm. And it's like, why don't we have a list? And I guess some of this is because of just like, if you have like a cheap, you know, you're trying to do cheap housing and stuff, you're not really caring about people's like,
sure.
It's only, maybe this is like a wealth thing where it's like people who can afford to have, but it's just like there's little things. Like one thing that I have written down,
I think that there were just, maybe it was intentional. Maybe my grandfather designed the house that I grew up in. And there are so many little intricate things about the way that the house is designed that I kind of took for granted growing up. But then the more, after like going to college and living in all these different like settings and stuff, I mean, my 5th year of architecture school, I was living in an apartment that had a kitchen with no windows, and the kitchen sink was just facing like a blank wall. And I never wanted to do the dishes because I didn't want to have to stand and stare at the wall.
Yeah.
And when I'm at home at my parents', I don't mind doing the dishes at all, especially after making French toast on a Sunday morning, because the window, there's a window right in front of the kitchen sink that faces south. And so it's the most beautiful. I've got the music on, and the sun is coming in, and it's reflecting off of the silverware, and the water's going down the drain, and it's just like happy. And I could just stand there and do the dishes and sing, and it's great. And it's like the little things like that make the biggest difference. And it's like, why are we not? I don't even know how many years freaking humans have been alive, man. But it's just like, there should be like a catalog. If you're
Right,
born,
yeah.
and it's like, okay, here's how to do things, and here's how not to do things. Here's how to arrange things. Here's not how to arrange things.
I mean, is there not that, like in architecture school, something like that? Because that's like a lot of considerations are like around kind of like ergonomic stuff or stuff like that, where it's like, how do you make a pleasant dishwashing experience, or like I know there's some stuff around. There's an architect, I can't remember who it was, but who designed his house.
Le Corbusier, probably.
Well, this was something about like he had like an office that was like I forget, it was where it was far away from his bedroom or close to his bedroom for whatever reason. He had like some rationale about like the flow of his house. So
yeah,
I guess like is there not like an architecture as a field, like there's got to be some kind of like principles, but maybe not an exhaustive catalog.
Not really. I mean, there's well, no, I don't want to say that.
Like, is there not something about like not having a sink with a wall right in front of it? Like, I feel like that.
It's not like you walk into architecture school and they hand you like a list of like, okay, here's all the things you shouldn't do. A lot of it, honestly, so much of it, and this is just my experience, is that it's like, I think maybe they leave, and this could be a good thing too, but a lot of it is like reinventing the wheel. A lot of it is like you're left to kind of figure it out. They don't really want to come in and prescribe. And maybe if they did, it would get in the way of like invention or figuring out your own tastes or something. Like maybe it's not good to have that. But there are books that are very prescriptive about ways of living and ways of designing architecture in terms of sustainability.
Right.
Using different ways to optimize like heating, like energy efficiency, and ways to orient a building to be efficient in those ways.
I used to be super into that stuff. I wanted to have like some kind of like Earthship type home. I mean, maybe eventually I still would like something like that, but anyway,
yeah. So
there's principles around that kind of stuff,
But just in terms of like what's enjoyable. No.
Yeah, I mean, you reminded me when you were saying like talking about kind of the not wanting to like overprescribe because it might block some of the creativity or something. Like it reminds me a little bit of like in painting, there's like rules about perspective or rules about lighting and that kind of stuff, but. Like the rules, like you can break the rules. Yeah. I've heard people say, and I'm not exactly sure how I feel about this phrase, but this idea that like, what is it? It's like, I forget where I was going. Something about like, I literally forgot where I was going with that. About breaking the rules. There's like
we say with painting and perspective.
Yeah. I guess what I'm saying is like you don't like just because they're rules doesn't mean that like you can't
break them. You know, but I guess it's good to know what the rules are so that you can break them. I guess that's what the phrase was that I was trying to think of.
Yeah, you can't break outside of the box unless you know where the boundaries are.
Yeah, which I'm not sure exactly how I feel about that phrase. I feel like you can also just like mess around from like even without knowing the rules. But
we had no, that's kind of my third year of architecture school. I came to this position. So every single architecture assignment has some sort of constraints. If it's a literal building, then you're dealing with a location, a budget, a function. But before we even got to that, we'd have other assignments where just like the things were like, okay, you have to do a drawing, but it has to be only made of like 10 lines. It has to be, you have to make a model and you have to use only these 3. Or we had this one assignment that was really fun. We were given a 6 foot tall or 6 foot long 1/4-inch diameter metal rod. We were all given it, me and 120 other kids, and the assignment was, and only was, begin and end a line. 1 week, go. This is a competition.
I don't even know what that means.
Exactly, dude. That was why it was so fun.
Dude, architecture school sounds like a lot of fun.
It's so sick. So now you have 120 kids who are now, 120 19-year-olds running around college with a 6 foot long, 1/4-inch diameter metal rod, and they have to begin and end a line. You don't even know who you are yet at 19. You have to figure this out. You're like, holy shit, dude. So, what you have to do, what I kind of realize is like, being a creative designer is not as much about being a creative designer as it is about being a creative rule maker. Because beauty is a clever response to given restraints. You need to have some sort of limits so that you can show how smart you are, how clever you are, how like for example, the car or the wheel, like the wheel is probably a response to gravity. So the rule or the thing pushing back on the design of the wheel probably is this defiance of gravity.
Maybe friction or something like that.
Right, or friction. Yeah. Right. There's laws. There's some sort of forces going against you. And so this begin and end a line task needed more. You had to come in and, as a designer, add more limits. Okay, I'm only going to use wood. I'm only going to use... Because where else do you begin? And how else do you measure? So we had this assignment. This is kind of where I kind of came to realize my position on this is we had this assignment in my third year where we had designed a building. It was like this kind of courtyard, or like it was an intervention in a park next to a stream that was just supposed to make the site more beautiful. Really could do whatever you want. No electricity, it was like a little pavilion. And then, so we're drawing the pavilion, we're designing it in the computer, however you want to show it. But then also what we had to do was design in an abstract way, a 16-inch by 16-inch cube that was made of the same materials, literally, as the pavilion we were designing, and had to somehow evoke the spirit of the pavilion in terms of like the connections. And this was like a way to start learning about how to cast concrete or cut wood or put like, do a steel column or something, all these different things. And one of my favorite projects was this kid who did something very, very simple that I kind of thought at first maybe was boring or whatever. It was like a couple pieces of plywood split apart by, it was a cube made of like 4 dowels and like 8 nuts, essentially, that were kind of like pinching the plywood together or
nuts,
something.
like walnuts or like metal, like
metal, whatever you call it. What do you call those things? Like the hexagonal things that screw onto like onto a threaded dowel.
Yeah. Okay, I see.
And
I thought it was kind of boring, but then my professor made this really good point about how, what if the assignment was, how do you make an entire cube out of 4 rods and 8 nuts, or whatever the hell they're called? And then it all of a sudden became way more interesting, because when you're dealing with limited resources and you have a task to do, that's when you have the opportunity to create something. Beauty is a clever response to given restraints. You need something pushing back on you. And being a good designer is not so much about being a good designer as it is about being a good rule maker. You need to kind of invent the rules and the constraints and the boundaries of the world that you're designing in before you start designing, so that you have an opportunity then to show how you can break out of this box you've put yourself in.
Yeah, interesting.
I think that's like a really fun. Otherwise, because then it's like the other thing with in my 5th year is we had to do a thesis, which is like just an open-ended, self-directed, year-long assignment. And it's so easy to get lost when you're doing that. And so one of the questions becomes, how do you, and I think this is maybe a common thing in this is like a really important question if you're in architecture school, is how do you measure the success of your project? You can only measure the success of something if you're aware of the goals and the constraints prior to addressing it.
Yeah. I mean, just on the, it's tough to, I mean, it reminds me a little bit of like any kind of art, because it's so subjective. I mean, you can have goals and you can know what the goals are and what the constraints are like perfectly, but in measuring, the measurement of the actual success is still very hard. You can only kind of approximate.
Yeah. So in terms of art, here's how this works in terms of art then, I think. In the world, we are all operating and addressing and dealing with the same constraints, the same limitations: gravity, the length of a day, the seasons, heat, all these like problems that like, but Formula One is like a really awesome, opportunity for a bunch of scientists to come together and figure out how are we going to deal with these different forces that everybody's dealing with. Right. But I think in terms of being an artist, I think everybody, not just artists. Artists is just someone who chooses to do something about it, but everybody has a world inside of them, an entire world that only they understand the rules and it has its own type of metaphorical gravity. It has its own metaphorical friction, its own metaphorical length of a day. All of these things that make that person's world unique to them. And I think it's the task of the artist to, and maybe this is kind of like a subconscious understanding of the rules of your world, and you try to share that with somebody else through whatever it is that you're making, to try to explain to someone, this is my world that I'm living in, and this is what it looks like. This is how it operates. These are the things that I'm dealing with. Yeah. And it's unique to everyone, that world. And so when I'm looking at art, I think the best art, the art that I'm attracted to the most, is the one who is made by the artist who has the most concrete understanding of the rules of their internal world. Yeah.
Yeah, that's really, really well said. And a super interesting like line of thought. I've been thinking about this actually recently also. Kind of like, what is the role of the artist like in a societal kind of context? And I think it is very much along those lines of like, I think the artist kind of is someone who is able to tap into like their subconscious or unconscious, and like the Jungian idea of like the collective unconscious, and to be able to like bring out some kind of wisdom or something, or to bring something out to light that maybe exists in everybody, or it exists in the culture in mass, and like make it concrete, to maybe examine further or something like that. We talked about it last time. It's like that intuition. It's like being really, really tapped in with the kind of supercomputer part of your brain and just like pulling out the little interesting bits and actually making them into something that's like a little bit more able to be analyzed or thought about or understood.
Something that resonates with like, and I think the way to do that, which I got to remind myself of this right now as I get kind of caught up in the work that I'm doing, is the thing. It is the personal that becomes universal. If you go as an artist, if you go at a work of art aiming for the universal, you might not speak to anyone. But instead, if you go for the personal, eventually you're going to strike a chord that is universal.
Right.
Is that thing that people resonate with that you were talking about. It doesn't come from looking out. It comes from looking in.
Yeah.
I think.
Yeah. You're saying you have to remind yourself of that now? Why? In what sense?
Yeah. And I think maybe this is... I mean, I don't even know how people who like get famous deal with it. But like when you have... you can think about it in terms of like everyone else's eyes looking at it, but I'm kind of thinking about, I think even like my own eyes have kind of become this like audience that has a certain level of like, I've developed my own expectations of what I'm doing. And then I have to live up to those expectations or maintain a certain track or like...
Yeah, like you make something that's like, this is really solid. And then if you feel like you make something that's not up to that standard, you're like moving backwards kind of.
Yeah, and not even in terms of good or bad, but just in terms of maybe like identity or like things I think I've figured out. And so I think maybe I've been a little bit too... Well, the thing too is like at some point you need to investigate what you're working on. I mean, there's only so much time in the day and only so many parts of myself or what I'm thinking that I can investigate. It's not which idea am I going to pursue today. It's which 100 ideas am I going to choose not to pursue today.
Right.
You know, and that creates the problem. Do I try to tackle 5 at once or 1 a day? Or do I just try to... Because sometimes the discovery comes through depth and the monotonous hammering of the same idea to try to pull the essence out of it.
Yeah.
And sometimes it comes from moving vertically and sometimes it comes from moving laterally. Across the surface or down deep. And that's, I guess, maybe what you're always juggling as an artist is like, it's like you're there's a ship at the bottom of the ocean, or maybe there's a couple ships and you're at the surface and you're trying to figure out when it costs you like $10,000 to make a dive. Okay. And it's going to cost you a lot of time to make a dive. And I don't really know if the ship is down there. I think maybe it's down there. I get the sense, or I'm close.
Yeah.
Is this the spot where I make the dive, or should I move over there a little bit more and then maybe make the dive? Or should I go down like kind of halfway and see if maybe I see the ship or not?
Yeah.
You know, that's kind of what you're juggling is like, because if I dive here and now, maybe it's like freaking Interstellar too, man. That scene, have you seen Interstellar?
Yeah.
You know, where it's like, they land on that planet with the water and they're like, if we go down there and try to do this right now, 40 years of our life are going to go by.
Yeah.
So you can do that and you can investigate this thing. Like as an artist, you can do this series of paintings that you think you want to do, but that's 3 years of work that you're not going to spend working on all these other ideas that you have.
Right.
And you have to give that up. That's kind of what you're juggling, I think. And I don't know, like I'm trying to figure out how much of that voice of, I don't know, man. I don't know. So right now, I think what I'm saying is, I guess I've been caught up a little bit in this depth, and like I'm 3/4 of the way down to the treasure, you know, to the sunken ship, and I'm like, maybe I should go back up and like go like 10 feet, 30 feet over that way, and then really make my dive. You know, I could still turn back.
Right. In what sense are you feeling that? Like what is it that you feel like you're exploring that you're thinking maybe is not worth exploring?
Well, I think that I'm diving right here because maybe someone else, and this someone else is another version of me, but another version of me was like in my ear saying like, dive, like go here. And I was like, yeah, you know what? This is the spot. And then now I'm like, was that the ego? Was that someone else telling me something was good? Like, am I still following myself or my gut or my true, like, am I still obeying the rules inside of my inner world?
Yeah.
Or have I abandoned some part of it? And dude, I put music on when I'm painting and stuff, when I'm working, and the one album right now, maybe two albums that I think are the best. Like, this person chose the right spot to dive. They found the treasure, and all the while were completely obeying the rules of their inner world. 2 albums, maybe 3, whatever. Downward Spiral by 9 Inch Nails.
Okay.
That album is something I put on, and it just makes me feel like the full confidence of like, fuck yeah, this is who I am, this is what I think, this is how I see things. Let go of all inhibitions, all conceptions of what I think I'm doing, and just I can be me right now. That album says that. And 3D Country by Geese, which I've been huge into lately, also is like, fuck yeah, this is my world. And it makes me feel like I can channel my own.
Yeah, yeah. Is there like, I'm kind of re-asking the same question, but because I'm curious, like what is it? It sounds like you feel like there's a thing that maybe you've been diving deep on that you feel like maybe is not worth diving deep on, or is it really just that you're kind of just unsure in general of like, what is it that made me dive here?
Maybe it's boredom of seeing of just doing the same thing for a while, or like, am I sure it's going somewhere?
Yeah.
Can you say that one more time?
Yeah, what I'm asking is like, it sounded like you were saying that there's a feeling like you're kind of 3/4 of the way down.
Yeah.
And you're kind of thinking to yourself like, maybe this is not the place to dive. Maybe I should dive somewhere else. Like,
yeah.
like where is that coming from? Is that coming from like
where is that doubt coming from?
Or maybe it's not even doubt. Maybe it's just a feeling of boredom.
Of I have been lulled to sleep in this comfortable set of rules that I have created. And I'm becoming skeptical that I'm doing it now, not because I feel like it's a reflection of my inner world anymore or my emotions day to day, but because it's a track I think is good. And a track I think is, and that's, I think, a dangerous thing is like, I don't know if you should be doing art. I think it's maybe boring. It's super freaking boring to be making something because you think it's good. Like that should not be the aim of what I'm right? Shouldn't it be some other
I don't know.
part? Shouldn't it be something else? It shouldn't be. That's not what you're trying to do. It's like what you were saying before about like you're trying to. You have to address the personal in order to, if you want to make the universal or address the universal, it has to come from the pursuit of the personal.
Yeah.
So
right, like I think like the extreme version of like the antithesis of that is like just try to make something that like you think will sell, or that's like something that's like has like mass appeal. It's like when artists like get really bad because they like get success and they just try to do like a carbon copy of themselves.
Well, maybe you get commissions. That's why like I don't do commissions.
Yeah.
Because that's like a kind of death.
Right. Yeah. Because it's like someone's asking for you to recreate something. Mm-hmm. They want you to do a certain kind of style and like to kind of like copy yourself or something.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So I don't want to feel like, I guess that's a good, yes, that's exactly it. I don't want to feel like I'm copying myself.
Yeah. Yeah.
You know, at what point, like when you're investigating something, you're doing a series, you're testing a body of work over the course of 12 paintings or something. How much of that you need to you can get lulled into like, oh, I'm copying myself. I'm just copying myself. I know what I'm doing. I know what the rules are. I know what the process is. I know the recipe. And to stay on the ball of like, and that's why I think I talked about recently the clock approach, which maybe is one I got to kind of get back to. It's been like in the back of my mind, is like this task of like whatever the rules of the world is, or like this kind of like theme of the body of work you're working on is like at the center of this like metaphorical clock. And you try to make a piece of work for every hour on the clock, for like a 12 work, a 1, a 2, a 3, a 4. And what you do with this is like with each of those, each hour is a certain like quality of the thing that you've made. Like maybe you make one of them and you're like, okay, look, you can look at it in terms of texture, you can look at it in terms of color, you can look at it in terms of composition, you can pick out like a certain quality of the painting, and then you ask the question, well, what if I push that to, or what if I imagine two extremes?
Yeah. Like what's the opposite of this one on all the dimensions?
Exactly.
Yeah.
Right. So then that's like one of the extremes is like the 12 version, and then you have the 6 version, you have the 3 version and the 9 version, which is a different quality pushed to both opposite ends of its extremes.
Yeah.
That's kind of a way to kind of break out of, to make each work interesting, and a challenge of like having it relate to still be kind of consistent with the body of work, but show variation in a way that doesn't become, the work doesn't become monotonous. Yeah.
You're saying, you want to like get back to that because you haven't been doing that recently.
Maybe I've kind of let it go a little bit.
Yeah.
Yeah. I don't know. How do you had a show, your show last fall had a huge impact on me and how I work and how I see things. And, is that whole transition we could talk about going from, I would call it a referential work of art versus like a self-referential work of art.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I remember we talked about that.
And now a big push of mine because of seeing that show is doing work that is trying to be self-referential as opposed to referencing something that is not in the room or alluding to something else that is not within, like, it's not about something that's not about the thing. Like, it's supposed to be just it is the thing. Yeah. Because I think, like, in seeing that, one of the things that really impressed me was the immediacy of all of the works and how they felt like they were there with me.
Nah, that's so cool.
Yeah,
that's what I want, dude. That's great.
Can you talk about like how they kind of came together?
In what sense?
How the whole body of work came together in terms of like timeline, approach, mentality.
Yeah. So, in a very disjointed way, like a lot of the works on paper were things that I made for one of the Our Evolution shows that, as always, I just like crammed kind of last minute. So I didn't have any like materials that were ready. And I had gotten, I wanted to do this for a while. One of the buildings that is part of the company my dad works for, they're renovating like an old church, and they had a bunch of old books in there, like, just kids' books and stories and all kinds of stuff. And I wanted to do something with books. So in preparation for the Our Evolution show, I just had a bunch of those books laying around. It's like, well, I don't have any materials. I'll use this as an opportunity to do some of this book stuff. So I made some stuff on like book covers. I made some stuff on like pages of books. I would use like the inside cover, like the blank. Yeah. The blank pages. And so that's where where all the stuff on paper came from. It was all just that. And I had like crayons, like highlighters and pens and markers and stuff. And it was just like, I mean, there's probably, of the stuff that I showed at the Our Evolution show, I maybe only showed, no, I guess I probably showed like 80 or 90% of it at the fall show. But of what I showed at the Our Evolution show, like that 100% that I showed, it was probably, I mean, I think a fair bit less than half. I don't even remember. I have like a pile somewhere in the basement of like half finished or finished pieces of craft I didn't like. Yeah. So that's where all that stuff came from. I mean, all of that stuff, like the timeline of that, like what I showed that the orange one called Rush that's hanging at the gear now.
Yeah.
That one was like the second like real painting I ever did. That was in 2020.
Wow.
And then the most recent one was it didn't have a name because none of them had names, but it's the one I'm pretty sure it's the one with the one that's hanging in my bedroom. It's the one with the blue like diamond shape and then the green kind of thing floating above it with the white background, right? That's
Love
like
that
super textural.
Yeah.
I think that was like the latest one. So it's like all the way from like 2020 until like I think I finished that one like a couple weeks before the show and hung
Those
it like
two are
2
like a
days
great
before.
pairing too, I think, like in terms of it seems like they're coming like you have a lot of I would say there's like a range of styles there, but it's funny how those two, super early one and super late one, I feel like are kind of coming from the same place.
They do have a parody. Yeah, like in the sense that, I mean, one thing I feel like I've always liked is, I don't know where this comes from, but I really like kind of like objects floating in a void. Like when I think of like abstraction, like it's funny. I learned about suprematism. I don't know if we've talked about that. That's like Kazimir Malevich.
Yeah.
And, he kind of like founded suprematism, and like I learned about that after I had done that orange one, Rush. But I think like that one to me came more from like Kandinsky.
Yeah, yeah.
He had some stuff which was kind of like that. Had that sense of like there was like a background and then stuff like
A figure.
Yeah, there
on
was
a
stuff kind of
background.
like suspended, floating in it.
Yeah.
I for whatever reason have been really, really drawn to that. Even before I knew of Kandinsky, like I'm thinking back to.
And these objects too are usually like the entire boundary of every figure. I think this is consistent in a good bit of your work. The boundary of every figure is within the bounds of the canvas.
Yeah. Yeah.
There's nothing like there's no real allusion to something existing beyond the frame.
Yeah,
or other
like
figures that aren't totally shown.
Yeah, yeah, like what I kind of imagine. I kind of see them as like there's like a void that's like maybe infinite or something, where like it doesn't matter how big or small it is, whatever, but like it goes on outside of this maybe. But what you're seeing here is like all that matters. Like in a sense, like I kind of see them as like when I'm looking at them, I don't like it's not an active. I don't actively think about it like that. But like if I think about them for like a little more in terms like what is this space like as a space, I think about it like that. That there's like this kind of void that's vast, and then there's like things that are just like suspended in it.
And it's kind of like actually I'm thinking about it now, like it's a family photo. Because whatever these like things are that are suspended, you're like, hey guys, like get together, get in here, everybody like, everybody smile.
Right. Everyone get in the right position.
Yeah. And and then you take the shot.
Yeah.
You know, it's not like someone is like, running off camera or like causing havoc. Like everyone, even if they're kind of joking around, is still like somewhat like posing, maybe.
Yeah. Yeah, like they're composed in a certain way that's nice.
Yeah.
I'm trying to think if I've ever done stuff that has like something running off the edge. Like now that I can remember, I mean it would give a very, very different feeling. But like I'm even thinking about like my other like one of my favorite ones is the one that I always say is pink. Everyone said it is red, but it's the one called Lost.
Okay.
It's like pink kind of void, and there's like the red square, right?
Yep.
Is that red or pink to you, by the way?
Red.
Okay, this is so fun, dude. I think everyone I've talked to says it is red, the background. But
Wait,
it's
you
very
say
pink to me. Yeah.
Pink?
To me, it's very pink. But
Yeah, I say red.
anyway, that's like another one of my favorites. And yeah, it's the same thing. It's like a thing kind of floating in a void. And I was thinking about this a minute ago. My uncle was visiting with his wife, and they're very into art and stuff. And so we're talking about some art stuff. And one thing that my uncle and I were talking about was we both have an affinity for the feeling of, and I think we share this too, this feeling of like kind of being alone, like late at night, like everyone's asleep, the whole world's asleep.
Yeah.
Like, there's a sense that it's just you.
Yes.
In some sense. And like, I don't know what makes a person love that, but my uncle and I and me and you really, really like that. And I feel like there might be something analogous to that in those three paintings in particular, what we're talking about. And also, except like some of the stuff on paper, like one of my favorite ones is, I think it was, I had a description on the list of paintings and art that was at my show that I didn't mean for actually to be shown. Did I tell you about this?
Mm-mm.
So there was so at the show, all of the, pretty much everything there was for sale, but I didn't have prices next to anything. I just didn't want it to be associated. So I had a paper, that had a corresponding number, which was next to the painting, right?
Yeah.
So, and to describe them for the people who were setting stuff up in the gallery, they wanted like a description of like what it was or whatever. So I gave just like kind of throwaway, like easy, quick descriptors of like what the painting looked like some attribute about it. And so all of them, I didn't realize it, but they thought that they were supposed to be shown. So all the like throwaway like descriptors were like on this like sheet, which was kind of funny. So one of them was like blue diamond or something like that, was like the one with the green and blue and the void. But anyway, there was one that was called boxes, which my friend Noah has. And yeah, it's another one that's like, it's just like these kind of like pencil, like straight edge pencil drawings of like these like trapezoids that are like floating in a void. Yeah, a lot. I'm kind of noticing now that a lot of my stuff is like that. It has that kind
It's afraid of the edges.
Yeah, but it has in particular, I feel like it has this quality of like there's this vast space that these things are kind of like placed in.
Yep.
And I
guess
I'm just noticing that it feels analogous to that feeling of like I have an affinity for like large empty space where I'm kind of like alone.
Whoa.
You know? I've honestly never thought of that before.
Hell yeah.
That's really interesting. I hope now that I don't
it's
like throw myself off by like overanalyzing it. But that's interesting.
But no, it's like the opposite of like claustrophobia. You don't want the painting to feel claustrophobic. You want to feel like there's room to move around. I feel like all the shapes, like that's the thing, especially with Rush, for example, like I could get the sense that it's like they're almost part of like a mobile or something, and they're all kind of like moving or dancing around each other, and like there's I feel like there's space for them to kind of move around joyfully or freely or kind of tumble. I'm picturing them tumbling kind of.
Yeah, especially like in Lost, which is like one of the only ones I've ever titled.
That's the pink square. Okay,
yeah. That one very much feels like it's so funny. I don't know if I've told you about like kind of where that one came from. It's on my Instagram, but that was one that came from. It was again the night before an R-Evolution show. I think it was literally the night before like the hanging deadline, or maybe the day before the show. I was like up super late, working on stuff, I was working like 3 canvases at once, or trying to finish something, and there was one which was just going in like a direction that was like it was not going towards success. It was getting more and more messy and more convoluted and ugly, and I was like, I'm going to show this thing what ugly is. So I picked like this most ugly brash color, which is that pink color. I'm just going to cover the entire thing in this ugly color and show you exactly how ugly something can be.
Hell yeah.
And I was going, and I just at some point decided like, well, I'll just paint around this little red square. And then like I just finished painting everything and leaving the red square, and I'm like, oh, I think this is done. And it's so funny because like most of the stuff that I've made, I don't really feel like a very strong emotional feeling other than like, oh, like this is interesting, or like I feel drawn to it for some reason.
Yeah.
But that one in particular very much evoked a kind of sense of like being lost and alone, like on some kind of journey of like trying to just find like I feel like that like Little Red Square is like kind of lost in some sense, like trying to find a place that it belongs or something. It was like very interesting. Like I really have not felt like that with I think any of my other stuff, and that one, it's crazy how it came about just like by accident, but that one felt it felt like it was lost, and it was like on some kind of like journey to like find something.
Yeah.
weird. It's weird. Like I really don't think about any of my other stuff like that.
How did Rush come about?
That one was for did I tell you ever about the Little Room? So this was, I had the best COVID experience of anyone on the planet, I think, because I was, I was at the Gear Factory. So the whole world shut down. Everyone's terrified. And, people are like alone in their house or, cooped up with just like one or two other people or something. And, you can't go out to restaurants, can't go out and do anything. And early on, I mean, people weren't really even going outside. Like people were like, you know, like scared. So, meanwhile, I'm cooped up with, like 30 or 40 other artists, and we're all like, we're all living together. We all share common spaces. So like, we're not like holed up in our rooms. We're like doing shit.
Yeah.
And so we're getting stimulus checks, and we're just like, how can we?
Oh, dude.
Yeah. So it's like, well, no one's working. It's like, so what do we do here? So long story short, somebody got kicked out of a room down on the first floor of the Gear, and so a bunch of people pitched in to like rent the room, and like initially it was like, we're just gonna have parties here. Mm-hmm. But then over time it kind of morphed into like, well, like let's put on like shows. Like we all want to make art and show art. So we created this little gallery. And we called it the Little Room. And the first like series we did was the Spectrum series. And so it started with the Red Show. And so that was the first like real painting I ever did.
I'm just laughing because
yeah.
I'm thinking about how this room is called the Little Room, and Rush is your biggest painting.
Yeah.
I'm excited to see where this is going to go, because this is like an 8 or no, what?
I think
7 feet by 10 feet painting or something.
What is it? I think it's like 5, because I think it was on a 6-foot roll, so I think it's like wrapped around the canvas. I think it's like 5.5 by 8.5 or something like that. It's pretty big.
Yeah. In the Little Room.
In the Little Room. Yeah. No, it was the biggest thing there by a good margin. I know. Yeah. Well, I like painting big, dude.
Hell yeah.
So the first one I did was called Breakfast, because one of my roommates, Ian Saunders, I had this thing where I had a Finsta where I would post every day a picture of my breakfast. Nice. And just with like a stupid caption, I would tag like a celebrity like Kim Kardashian or something. It was just a stupid throwaway thing that I would do every day. But so it's kind of like a meme. He was like, he's like, what are you going to name your painting? Breakfast? And I'm like, actually, I don't have a name for it, so maybe I will. So anyway, the red one is called Breakfast. But so Rush was just the next show, was the Orange Show.
That was the theme of the show.
Yeah. Okay. So each show was just the next color. So it was Red Show, Orange Show, Yellow, and so on.
And who's going to these shows?
So during this time, it was just people at the Gear.
So everyone's like, okay, here's the assignment. Yeah. We're gonna do. That's so cool.
Exactly.
That's what you should be doing in like an art community residency building.
Totally. Yeah. It was one of the best COVID experiences ever. But anyway, so that's where the orange one came from. And I don't know if I've told you about this. It's also on my Instagram, or is it? Maybe it's not yet. It might be. Anyway, so the originally under what is now the surface of the painting, there's another painting that was gonna be a thing. Mm-hmm. I think at this time I like just gotten exposed to or gotten into Joan Mitchell, and I kind of wanted to do something that was like that, or messing with some of that. And basically, I didn't know what I was doing, and so I tried a thing that I thought was going to give me the result that I wanted, and it did not at all. So it was like a week before, it was like a couple days before the show date, and I'm like, this is not going the direction it needs to go. I need to abandon this and do something else. So I stayed up one night until like 3-4 in the morning or something like that, like sanding down the surface with an orbital sander to get rid of all the texture.
Whoa.
Yeah. So you can even see
why. I just want to ask.
Well, because it had. You can see if we ever go there in person, or maybe I have pictures of it. You can see there's like these kind of blobs. These
this
like
is
horizontal.
Rush?
Yeah. So underneath it, there's like these blobs that are kind of going horizontally, and they were like pretty thickly globbed on there. Yeah. And I just wanted something that was like a pretty flat, to start something fresh. So anyway, I stayed up until like 3 or something, like sanding it down with an orbital sander. I still didn't flatten it completely, but. Because of the deadline and because of how badly my experimentation had gone, I was like, I'm going to make this, and it didn't come out at all. I was like, I need something that's like rigid and clear that I can actually execute. So I took my phone out, and in the like markup app, I literally designed that painting on my phone in the markup, like photo markup thing.
Even with like the Sharpie squiggle or whatever? Or?
Yeah, I have on one of my old phones, I have I have a series of screenshots of like different iterations of it because it went through a bunch of different iterations of like even what shapes was I going to have?
Yeah, so I'll explain. Like this painting rush is basically the composition arrangement of 3 family members, 3 figures, a long skinny black rectangle, an orange square, and a Sharpie. I don't want to call it a squiggle, or like what would you?
I'd say squiggle. Yeah,
a Sharpie
it feels
squiggle.
like a squiggle. Yeah.
Are those the 3 objects? And is it just those 3?
No, there's more than that. So there's
a white something or a cream something.
Yeah, there's a white long. I mean, I can put up a thing on the graphic, but yeah.
So like,
there's like a white thing on the bottom.
Did you? Because I've done similar stuff, maybe like in architecture or like. Are there personalities or is there symbolism involved with these like 5 or whatever characters that you have? Like, how did you choose the characters?
I don't think it was anything like intentional thinking about like what are the characters. I think I was purely just thinking about like composition, like what looks nice and balanced or unbalanced in a pleasurable way or something like that. I'd love to at some point go through my phone. I can show you all the different iterations. 'Cause it started out.
I want to see that.
It started out very, very different until I finally landed on.
And you said this one feels right.
Yeah.
Okay.
I think it was. Yeah, I don't remember exactly what my thought process was of like how I knew it was done. I imagine some of it might have been like a time thing, but like I think I was just also really satisfied with like, yeah, this is good. And I think one thing that like pleasantly surprised me was I was worried that I would make the design in my phone and be like, and then once I rendered it, I would be like, it's not as good as the design.
Right.
And it was totally the opposite. Like when I painted it and it was like done, I was like, this is like even better than the like designed in my markup app. So that one is still one of my favorites. I love that one. But yeah, it came from a mistake of experimentation, and then the reason it's called Rush is because, well, one, it's a play on like
you were rushing to get it done.
Yeah. It's partially that, but it's also because I feel like orange is a very energetic kind of rush color.
Yeah.
So it was kind of like a double meaning thing. But I mean, the funny part about it being a rush was that I was working on it with like I think like a couple days left up until the deadline of like when we were supposed to have the show, and then so I was working like crazy on it, and then it ended up that like so many other people were late that we pushed the show back a week anyway.
Oh, nice.
So I didn't need the rush.
Right.
Refreshing.
So I want to ask you, you talked about Rush being like your second real painting that you've done, and I don't even know if you like label yourself as a painter because you're also doing music stuff. You've got all these other like creative ventures going. You're a community facilitator, and your satisfaction, I guess. I mean, you've talked about how like your drive for creating something kind of comes from its ability to impact and relate to other people. So I guess what I'm wondering about is like, how did you decide that painting is a worthy direction for you to kind of channel this creative energy? Like, why painting instead of so many other sculpture or whatever, music?
Yeah.
Like,
honestly, a big part of it was huge shout out to Igor Mikushkin, who was instrumental in getting me to start painting.
Yeah.
He was someone he was my neighbor at the Gear. He lived like the door right across from me. And basically, like, I started painting because of these shows, like the Spectrum series.
Okay, wait. So before we get into this, then, I want to ask, what was your label or your identity? How did you identify when you moved into the Gear Factory, which is this artist residency community in Syracuse?
Yeah. So to move in there, you have to have some kind of like creative thing, right? So I moved in there. My thing was music, like music production, and like what I think at that time, like my kind of one of my biggest aspirations was like doing film scores, like video game soundtracks or something like that. I really, really like the pairing, and I still do. Really like the pairing of music with visuals or with a story, like how music can create this kind of space and a feeling.
A score,
Yeah, I really love that pairing. So that was my original art form that got me in the doors. But
wow.
yeah, so when we started doing the Spectrum series, I think I floated the idea of doing music, but for whatever reason, maybe it's just because I had seen a lot of people doing painting, or I think I was big into Rothko at that point, which is why the first one that I did, Breakfast, is very Rothko ripped off kind of.
Oh, okay, yeah, I remember that one now. Yeah.
But yeah, I mean, like, Igor just like gave me a canvas and was like, "Here, like, paint something." And I remember, I will never forget this, dude. When I was, so I did like this tiny. I have it somewhere in in a bin. I have this tiny thumbnail sketch that's literally like an inch tall by like 3/4 of an inch wide of the painting. It's this tiny thumbnail sketch that I did.
Your first painting.
Yeah. I had this little tiny thumbnail sketch on the corner of this paper that has a bunch of other little thumbnail sketches on it.
Do you still have that?
Yeah, it's somewhere in a box.
Sweet.
It's in my basement.
Sweet.
But so I kind of intentionally did it small because I didn't want to get stuck on the details. Like, if I make something that's like at a big enough scale, I can make it really detailed, and then I get stuck to like, oh, but like this is not exactly proportional. If it's so small, like I can't like make the marks like articulately enough that I'm actually doing exactly how I want. I also can't really see the detail enough. So anyway, I was still worried. He gave me the canvas and it was primed or whatever, and I was still worried about like starting, just because like the blank canvas thing is scary to me.
Right.
And he like he saw me like standing there. I had the brushes. I had all the paints out. I was like ready to go. He's like, "What are you doing? Just fucking start." I'm like, "I know, you're right." And I started painting.
Hell yeah.
Yeah. So shout out, Igor. Thank you. You saved my life. Sorry, what did you ask? You asked about why did I start painting?
Yeah. So why paint?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
So he just gives you the canvas. He gives you the paint.
He
says,
literally
like,
gave me the materials and said do it. Yeah.
So you do this one.
Yeah. And then I think I just really enjoyed the process, and I think for a while I'd wanted to do painting. Like, even before I moved to the gear, I'd done a little bit of like watercolor stuff, and like before I moved to the gear, I had like discovered Kandinsky and had been getting into some of his stuff, and so I did some watercolor. I did some kind of compositional like straight edge type stuff. I still have some of that somewhere, but I think I just a little bit wanted to do painting, and then when the opportunity presented itself, I was like, sick. I get like free materials, and like we're all getting stimulus checks, and we're doing these shows now, so I might as well like take this opportunity to do it.
I think that's one of the biggest things that people have to kind of overcome when you want to. I think a lot of people have creative inklings or whatever and want to make something, but they can't get over the hurdles of like, I mean, time is a big aspect. People say they're too busy, but I think what's tougher than that is like one of the biggest barriers is like having a space to do it, and like a space where you can make a mess, a space where you can store all the materials, have the stuff. You don't want to be like setting up and taking down and cleaning. Like, if you have to do that for every working session, it's just too much of a barrier. You're not going to do anything. You need to kind of have like a dedicated space for it.
You have to like lower the barrier so that doing it is not like a chore.
That's exactly it.
Like you can't make just starting it a chore. Yeah.
So I had this kind of problem where like I painted a lot in high school. That's kind of where I got started. I kind of got like this rhythm of like abstract expressionist stuff that I was doing. And then I went to college and architecture school, and I kept kind of painting like in my free time there. And then I came back home, moved in with my parents again after graduating from college. And a few months after kind of starting my architecture job, I had this, little voice that was telling me you gotta paint. You should paint something. You should make something. You don't want to be just drawing buildings. You need to do something that's kind of like freer and more expressive. And for a while I was listening to that voice and I wasn't doing anything. And I was like, why am I not? And it was because I'd already painted before, like I knew how daunting of a task it was to, buy the stretcher bar, stretch a canvas, get the paint, set up a space, take it down. I was painting like in high school and in college a little bit. I was painting like in the summers on my ping pong table in my parents' basement.
Flat, like horizontal on it?
Yeah. I literally had wow, this is actually crazy to remember. Yeah. I like draped a bunch of like plastic over this ping pong table and was painting just flat over it. Or like on the ground. It never occurred to me to like hang something on the wall or lean something on the wall. And basically this was a barrier for me at 22, being back home with my parents, and yet still, as we were talking about last week, like I was having conversations with people, and these like geometries and relationships of shapes was like popping into my head. This kind of like overwhelming burden of like, these are things that want to exist on their own outside of my head, and I need to make them, but I'm not doing that because I don't want to set up this whole painting thing, and so I'm getting stressed out and overwhelmed with this burden. And it occurred to me one day, I was like, actually I had flown out to LA for my friend's wedding, and the thing that really sparked all of this actually in a weird way was like the flight attendants. There was something these two flight attendants, this like probably gay guy and this woman, who are pushing like this cart with all the food and stuff on it, giving you like your pretzels and your soda, whatever. There was something so freaking like caricature about them. Like they were these
They're
like
sitcom characters.
Yes. They were like these quintessential, eternal, universal characters that were symbolic of like everything. I was like, oh my God, I need to draw them because they're so just iconic. And that's when it occurred to me, it's like, I have this thing. This is like the moment where it's like, it has to get out. I have to get this thing out. Why does it have to be a painting? I just need to draw, like as quickly as possible. I need to get this out. That day, or like as soon as I got home, actually, no, I was actually at a, and I was like, I'm not going to go home. What else am I going to do the rest of the day? I went straight to Michael's. I bought an 18 by 24 notepad, charcoal, and my primary colored pastels. And I went home and I went crazy. Every single conversation, image, all these geometries that were just weighing me down that I didn't have the time and energy to paint, I just sketched them out. Every like 5-10 minutes, bang, new drawing, bang, new drawing, bang, new drawing. And a lot of those are the ones that you see in my first series of paintings that I did. But it was like I needed to get around that barrier of setting up the space, pivot, paper, charcoal, pastels, quick, easy, no space required, get it done. And then that gave me momentum. And then I was like, okay, now I have enough energy and momentum to get some plastic, get some drop cloths, set up, buy a canvas, get a space set up, get some paint, and really like start developing a practice out of this. But like, it was like, I needed to take like these like lily pad type baby steps to get to the big thing. And that's just what people got to do. Like everyone out there that has these like creative ambitions, start small, get a pen, get some sticky notes, just whatever you're feeling that's weighing you down, that's becoming this like ideological burden or something, just get it out, and the momentum will just start. And then you'll need to get bigger, or you figure out it needs to be a sculpture, or it needs to be this, or it needs to be that, and you just do the easiest thing first and establish some momentum.
Yeah. Do you think that's like the biggest thing that holds people back is, I mean, the other thing that comes to mind is like the fear of not being good at it. That's something that I feel sometimes is like I might want to try something, but aside from just the barrier of, if any logistics, it's like, what if I suck at it? Or I don't know. Like,
yeah, you have to get rid of some of that for sure. Like you're going to suck. But I think like, Rick Rubin's The Creative Act has a whole bunch of different ways to kind of like mentally jump the hurdle of like thinking you're going to suck, because I think sucking is probably the best thing that you can do.
What do you mean?
Like, I mean, it's just going to be so cool because once you start making something, it's like you're like the primitive artist, and whatever marks you're making, educated or not, are going to be, honestly, the less educated you are, the marks are probably going to be even more indicative of what your internal world is, what your spirit is. It's like I panic sometimes because I look back at the work that I was making as like an 11th and 12th grader in high school as, you know, just like some uneducated, unartistic idiot. And I'm like, fuck, is that more indicative of who I am than what I'm doing now? Because I'm educated, because I've read these books, because I've gone to school, like...
is it that when you look at them, you feel that they're more essential of you, or is it that you're just concerned about, oh, I'm too educated now?
Yeah, like these old paintings, they're naive, they're like, energetic.
There's a feeling about them.
There might be. I'm like, is there something more? Whatever this like essence or spirit or energy is there more of that in these older paintings? That I did when I was 17, 18.
Have I seen any of these? I don't know.
I don't think so. They're deep in my Instagram. Okay. I don't repost them or anything because I'm just on to different stuff now. A lot of them I would call, like I was saying last week when we were talking, is they're exercises in composition, and they are experimentations of materiality. Yeah. Which now my position is those are two of the most boring things ever. And I think there should be a lot more than just that. If it's just that, then I can see right through it, and I think it's bullshit. But at the same time, I'm like, maybe I was onto something. But then the thing that kind of like keeps me, like, I'm like, okay, is I'm like, I think about another thing that Rick Rubin said, where it's like, paintings are like a diary entry. They are a reflection of who you are, what you were thinking, and what you were feeling at a particular moment in time. Yeah. And the time that I'm in right now is not a time where I'm interested. I'm no longer interested in the same ideas and methods of working that I was interested in when I was 17 and I was making those paintings. So it doesn't make sense for me to go back and try to recreate whatever thing was happening then. Yeah. Because it's just not, even though I think it's cool or I think it's interesting or it's beautiful, whatever, it's not where I'm at right now.
Yeah, that makes sense.
It's not where I'm at.
Yeah. Yeah, you don't want to force it.
But there's doubt.
Yeah. Yeah, what do you do about that?
Nothing. You push it down. Push the
doubt down.
Yeah, because it's like, again, it's like that's not where I'm at right now. Like that's what it comes down to every time. Yeah. It's like, okay, maybe there is something redeeming about those paintings when I was 17, but it's just they're not who I am right now. And I just need to dig into the essence and the energy and the spirit of who I am right now and still try to maintain some of that like naivety.
Well, I think like maybe instead of naivety, like what it really is tapping into it's like actually tapping into the subconscious or the unconscious.
Right.
It's like it's not being unskilled or something. It's just actually having, like, letting the marks come from a place of like depth within you. You know what I mean?
Yeah. And I'm 26 now, about to be 27. So I think that means that my brain is fully developed.
It's getting there. I don't know if there's like a birthday date, but it's getting there.
I think I had this moment last year where I felt like, or maybe like the couple month transition, literally. Yeah. Where I felt like I have increased awareness when I'm talking to people, when I'm looking people in the eye, when I'm surveying a public scenario. I feel like I have some sort of increased awareness of everything in myself.
In yourself, you're saying?
In myself, of other people. Okay. Yeah. This kind of, it almost maybe felt like the light bulb turned on. And it was like I was asleep or something, or part of my brain was asleep for years. And it's hard to, who knows looking back how I felt in those moments compared to how I feel now. But now it's like I feel some sort of like increased clarity with everything that, is just a beautiful benefit of having a fully developed brain. Yeah. Maybe, apparently.
I don't know.
Maybe.
But at the same time, it's like, is that even good? I think it's actually terrible because
Really? Why?
yeah, man, because you're like, you're out with your family and now you're like hyper aware of like the delicacy of time and moments and how like this is like like you just become so, or like
Well,
even
that might be like just a getting older thing as opposed to like a brain thing. Cause
Yeah, that
like,
too, for sure.
I think I could be wrong, but I think like most of the like brain finishing developing is like the prefrontal cortex, which is like about like inhibition, impulse control, and like decision making kind of stuff.
Oh, I'm still bad at that.
Yeah, well, you might just be set then, and me too. So yeah, cheers to us. But
Fuck.
yeah, but I mean, like I kind of relate to that. What would you call it?
Id?
No, I'm thinking about the time thing. Like it's like the salience of time, like the real like kind of visceral feeling of like the time is moving on. I think that's the
Yeah.
thing that comes as you get older and you get perspective on.
And having responsibilities.
Oh yeah, stuff that's like eating.
Like this
your
is
time.
my 30 minutes I can relax for today because then I have to do laundry and do
Yeah.
dishes and go to sleep and
Yeah.
prepare for work and all this. It's like
Right.
you become so much more aware of like, I have to grocery shop and like all this
Yeah,
stuff. It's
yeah,
like, okay,
yeah.
so this is like my hour to hang out before I go back to
Yeah.
adulting.
Yeah, no, and I mean you do that like I think as you get older too, like out of college age, your days become, you're working a regular job. You kind of get into a routine, at least most people do. And kind of at the kind of like zoomed out view, every day in a sense looks kind of the same. I think it kind of makes you conscious of like how you're spending your time because you're like, this rhymes a lot with like the past like 6 months. It's like, is this what life is going to be forever? I think it kind of forces you to contemplate how you
Shit.
spend your time and stuff. What are you thinking about?
So there's something that I wrote down the other night. I really want to talk about. We're already at the length of an episode here. we have a conversation that we can log.
Yeah.
And I want to keep the stuff at the beginning that we talked about too.
I know. Yeah.
But there's something about, okay, we should get into this next time so we can cut it somewhere there or fade it out.
Okay, yeah.
But this stuff about mastery. Fuck.
You want to talk about it now? You seem like you're on it.
Yeah,
We can just have it be long.
I do. Yeah. So this is going off of what I can't paraphrase anything that you were just saying, but I know this goes off the thread of like, as we're growing up, every year there's
Oh yeah, like every year is like a smaller percentage of your life. Is that what you're gonna say or no?
No,
Something else, okay.
that's the thing that we can get. It's not that. It's like every sort of milestone or thing you're working towards or like conception of life doesn't happen in any larger of a block than say like 4 years or 2 years. Basically, you're living school year to school year, summer to summer. Maybe you're thinking about the entirety of high school and you have no comprehension of what happens after this chunk of 4 years. I mean, it's college, but that's a whole new chunk of 4 years, which you're breaking your life up into. And then it's like, okay, you go to college and you're going semester by semester, you're going summer by summer. You have a girlfriend or something and you're going away and then you're going to see her again and you're counting down the days. And there's always this kind of like, you're 3 months away from this or you're 8 months away from that or like the next thing. Like you're kind of like, you're on this like timeline of deadlines or something all the way until you graduate college. And now if you go through that, you're 23 and there's not a single fucking deadline in sight. And you have this just open void where now it's, do you party? Do you do drugs? Do you golf? Do you gamble? Do you hang out with your friends? Do you, this is the 20s, the best time of your life. Do you live with your parents? Do you save money? Do you buy a house? Do you get married? What do you do? And in terms of someone who, in terms of like being motivated or developing some sort of skill, you have this statistic that you have to confront, which is this idea of mastery. And mastery
is said to be attainable with anything that you pursue and dedicate yourself to for 10,000 hours. There's the 10,000 hour rule.
Right.
Do this thing, be dedicated for 10,000 hours, and you will become a master. Now, I broke that down.
Okay.
And if you do this is the new timeline. This is not the summer to summer. This is not the I'm going to see my girlfriend in 2 months when I go back to college. This is not I'm going to graduate in 2 years. This is life now. You're 23. You have a career. Maybe you live with your parents. Maybe you're getting married. Maybe you don't. But every milestone that's ahead of you now is up to you and what you choose to pursue and how you choose to dedicate your time. Mm-hmm. And if you decide whether it's fishing or pottery or biking or whatever the hell it is that you want to master something, your next milestone is 10,000 hours. And that 10,000 hours is possible if you do something for 1 hour a day for 27 fucking years. Mm-hmm. If you do it for 2 hours every day, 14 years. If you do it for 3 hours every day, you do the same thing that you are dedicated to for 3 hours a day, it's going to take you 10 years to become a master. Mm-hmm. So all of a sudden, time is dilated in this crazy way now, where it's like you have to be kind of, yes, you're in this open void of how you could spend your time, but if you just drink and gamble and play golf from 20 to 30, and you haven't really, I don't know what you've done for 1 or 2 or 3 hours a day, but it's like how much closer are you to mastery of any of these things? It's like this whole timeline of achieving milestones and progressing with your life has been dilated to this thing now of like, what am I going to set my mind on? And it's going to take me, if I do it for 3 hours a day, which who's going to do anything
by
for
the way.
more than like your full-time job, right? Every day, every day,
including weekends, birthdays,
3 hours a day, 10 years.
Yeah.
10 years is going to take you. Yeah. So what do you do? And then it's this weird thing because it's this whole like paradoxical thing of I have all the time in the world, and yet every day that escapes me,
right? Because you make your own deadline, but
is one less day closer to getting mastery in 10 fucking years or 15 years. So now it's like you're on this trajectory of like you're on not a 4-year cycle or loop or deadline or milestone situation or 2-year or summer to summer. You're on a 10 or a 15 or a 25-year one.
Yeah.
That's a whole other different beast to tackle. How do you...
Yeah.
I don't know, dude. I don't know how I got on that whole thing, but that's just like...
Well, I remember a minute ago you were talking about like you've been contemplating time more and stuff like that. And one thing that comes to mind with that is hopefully, with the development of your prefrontal cortex, you can take on like longer term goals a little better. Hopefully, is the idea at least.
That's the transition, I think.
You felt that?
No.
Or you think that's the
transition
like,
just in general. It's like that's what they don't tell you, dude. I had one of my high school friends come over to the studio last week, and he was saying like, yeah, man, when you're in high school, like everyone talks about like, they really hype up the transition between like 18 and 20 and 20 to 22 or something, whatever. Like when you become like, you go from this like kid with your parents to like learning how to live on your own.
Yeah.
But that's not like, dude, the transition they don't talk about is like your mid 20s when you literally have to be like, what are your principles and how do you approach the rest of your life?
Yeah. Right, because you go from, there's a bit of a transition from like high school to college is like you're kind of a little bit directing your path, but like once you're out of school, it's like there's no teacher giving you assignments.
No.
There's no like, big achievement kind of thing that you're, like a diploma that you're aimed at, unless you continue in higher education for your doctorate or whatever. But
it's 100% self-directive.
Change. Yeah. Yeah.
And they don't tell you what to do with that.
Right.
So then what you do is, you get your 9 to 5, you go to work, you live for the weekend, you drink, you gamble, you play golf, you do fantasy football.
Yeah.
And you find a girl at the bar and you guys get married and whatever, and you have a couple kids, and that's kind of like it, and you're a great financial advisor. Mm. That's it. I don't know.
And what do you feel about that? Like what is that to you? Like, it sounds like you're saying that it's kind of like
about vacation. I'm not good at vacation.
Yeah, like
so. I think when that's your, I guess the question becomes, when you're in that sort of scenario that I just outlined,
mm-hmm.
when do you clue into yourself, or when is there that moment of awareness? When does it happen when you say to yourself, like, okay, I'm living right now? Like, you ever have those moments you're like, I'm fucking living right now, dude. Like, this is life.
I try to. Yeah.
I'm living.
Yeah.
And those are the best freaking moments.
Mm-hmm.
When do those moments happen? And I think what people would tell you, who are living those like cookie cutter 9-to-5 finance, whatever, gambling, golf, fantasy football lifestyles, is vacation. I'm on vacation now, and I'm living. Or the weekend or something.
Yeah. Yeah, that's...
I'm not good at vacation. I can't vacation. And I kind of realized I have these maybe like fantasies about, like, maybe I'll just move to Italy and work on a farm. Mm-hmm. And that's not what you guys were going to think. What are you thinking I was going to say when I said fantasies? Maybe I'll go to this other country and I'll just live a life off the grid, or I'll be disconnected and I'll let go of my ambition. Yeah. I'll let go of this rat race that is America. And I'll just go like live, and I'll have a siesta and I can just chill out. Mm-hmm. And I kind of realized, I think my position on vacation and on living that way is, it is actually, the most, I think being hedonistic like that is the most selfish thing that you can possibly do. And I don't see any sort of value in living for my own. If I'm the only one that's getting some sort of satisfaction out of this vacation, or I'm doing it for me, I think the question actually, as an artist for me, is like balancing how much do I need to sustain myself in terms of entertainment and satisfaction, and how low of a number can I get that so that I can spend the rest of my time making things that are going to contribute to like humanity and people and everyone else and affect their lives. Because I think that, and like leaving a mark and like contributing to other people's lives, is way more, you could say it's selfless, and in a way it's probably more fulfilling. So maybe it is like a selfish thing in the end. Yeah. But it's like, that's what, like, vacation is fucking stupid. I should be here making something that's going to impact the lives of other people, and that's way more fulfilling.
Yeah.
So whatever little base needs I have for socialization or sex or whatever, it's like, how can I like minimize that as much as possible and get what I need? And because that stuff is there, so that I can like put the rest of the time and energy into making things that contribute to the progression and entertainment and enjoyment and life connectivity of the community.
Right. Yeah. Yeah. Very well said. I mean, yeah, I'm super aligned. I mean, we've talked about this stuff in the past, and I'm very much the same. Like and I've gone through, when you were saying, it was kind of funny because I was thinking back to, like, I've gone through those phases of like wanting to kind of go off into a cabin in the woods and like, live a kind of homestead thing. And like, but the thing that I think like officially kind of turned me off to that is the idea that it was selfish. Like
it's selfish. Like it is so fucking selfish.
Like in some sense, like, I don't know where this comes from, like, my Christian upbringing, or maybe it's just an innately kind of human thing, is the desire to contribute. Like, I feel like I have like a duty to like not squander like the gifts that I've been given and the abilities that I have and my potential. Like, I feel like I have a duty to like maximize my potential.
Yes.
And like to go off into the woods and like not use the tools of the modern age and not interact with, other people and, contribute to their lives and well-being and stuff. I feel like that's like squandering my potential. Like for me to just be like, swinging an axe, to like, keep my house warm.
Yeah.
Is like
For
Yeah.
what?
Yeah,
Just die.
Yeah, it feels like, and yeah, it's like I'll have the nice experience of being by the fire, and I'll have a family, and we'll have our, our connection and stuff. But like, I feel like I can, and maybe this is an egotistical thing, but like, I feel like I have a lot more, like, impact to make.
I think,
on the world,
no, I think everybody should feel like that. I didn't think about that being in terms of, a Christian thing, but maybe it is. I was confirmed in a couple churches. I was confirmed Presbyterian and Catholic.